Before we start this episode, I'd just like to say thank you. This is the 500th consecutive daily episode. Since January the 1st, 2021, I've been here every single day, bringing you all sorts of behind and in front of the microphone techniques to help you get a better broadcast, podcast and voice-over voice. I've launched about 6 or 8 different podcasts over the last 10, 12 years. This is by far the most successful. So, thank you for the loan of your ears to get a better broadcast, podcast and voice-over voice. The anchor, reporter, rapport on today's episode of Get a Better Broadcast, Podcast and Voice-Over Voice. So you're a reporter, and so you need to be able to succinctly communicate the distinct points that make the story, boiling down the issue or the scene to what's important. If you get stuck in the weeds of detail, you could end up the creek without a paddle. What is the main story here? What are the main elements that took us from where we were to where we are? What order should they logically go in? And how do you explain them to someone who may not have been following every twist and turn as you, the reporter, has been? Now, a cliche of script writing these two ways usually has the presenter asking the reporter questions like, what do we know so far? What does today's news mean? What reaction has there been? And what happens next? But these provide answers that the host would already know. And so asking them sounds false, misleading, patronising to the audience, and inevitably unconversational. And that's what we're talking about over the last several weeks on Get a Better Broadcast, Podcast and Voice-Over Voice. Conversationality. Instead, the anchor and reporter need to have a rapport to make it all sound much more natural. Okay, in this question, I've written for you to ask me, just so you know, when you get halfway through this question, I'm going to politely interrupt you and just agree with what you're asking and then go on and give you the rest of the answer. Yeah? Because by doing that, it's going to sound much more spontaneous, isn't it? If your host starts saying, now I seem to remember that back in 1975 a similar thing happened, why don't you remind us of that particular example, situation and illustration? When they get halfway through that, you interrupt, yeah, that's right, actually it was back then, and what happened was, yeah? Here's another idea. Get the host to give some of the information rather than the reporter, because that way they're more involved. They look more knowledgeable on a story that they, as an anchor, frankly, should know about. Yeah? Just think. How often have you heard this kind of thing? You've got your main news anchor. All right? You've got the host of the show saying something like, we covered the warehouse fire on the show yesterday. Remind us what happened. No! It's the host's show. They were on yesterday. They remember what the story was. Writing a question that way makes them look as though they've got the attention span of a goldfish. They don't. It makes it look as though they're play acting something from the Amityville horrors. No, rephrase the question to make it sound much more natural, much more authentic. And if the question is natural, the answer and the voice will sound more natural too. Oh, I'm getting distressed. I need to go and lie down. Where will I lie down? In London. I'm Peter Stewart.